the water's fine, homie, jump into the deep end. Sow it, you will reap it. We talking how to start it, how to grow it, how to keep it. Take a deep breath. You are now rocking with Founder Secrets.
Jamie, welcome to Founder Secrets.
Hi, Flavio. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Jamie's the founder of Spiritune. Really excited to have you on. We met at Soho Works, which is the best co-working place in the world.
Unofficial sponsors.
Not a sponsor of the pod yet. But our first icebreaker question we'll all answer is, what's the most relaxing place that you've ever traveled to? And I can kick it off. I went to Costa Rica for the first time last year, and it really blew my mind at how amazing of a special and place it is, and especially that they have this slogan for the country that they just say in regular conversation. So if you're like, "Hey, how's it going?" they say "Pura vida," which is pure life. And it's I thought it was a cheesy thing when I read about it. I was like, nobody actually says that. And then you go there, and people actually do. Just normal people will say it to each other, and it's just such a nice country sort of spirit. Yeah,
I love that. Pura vida, Flavio.
Yeah,
going to be using that the rest of the day. Why don't you say
that every day now? Yeah.
Bring it to the US. We could all use a little peace and calm in our lives. Am I next, or Taylor, do you want to go?
I'll go, and then you can go, Jamie. So the most relaxing place is, this is such a bad answer, but we went to Bali.
You took mine.
I feel like it's such a basic answer. I don't know, but with our honeymoon, and I expected to like it. It's got so much hype, but when we think of relaxing, that we stayed at this amazing resort place, and we got massages every day, and it just. The food was so great. It was quiet. There was running water everywhere. It was just so peaceful. And the people were so nice. Lovely place. Sorry to steal
it wasn't
your
so much stealing, because I too struggled with the answer, because I typically don't necessarily go to I go to places more for adventure than relaxation. And it's usually what ends up being relaxing is my intention for the trip. So some of the places you could be relaxing or that could be relaxing. Let's say I've been to Costa Rica about a decade ago, but it was a work offsite. So just by definition, it wasn't the most relaxing for me. But I did go to Bali for an entrepreneur retreat when I was had left my former career, had started the ideas of Spiritune, what I'm doing now. And I really wanted to immerse myself in a new mindset, a new environment around like-minded people. And all the programming was around, just not only relaxation, but also cultivating an entrepreneur mindset. And that really, I think, put me in this really peaceful mindset, or at least set me at ease with this new adventure I was embarking on. So it has a special place in my mind and experience at this venture in time. So I think I would say Bali, even though it sounds so cliche. The other one being Virgin Gorda also is beautiful.
What's that?
You've never heard of Virgin Gorda? It's in the BVI's, no. Beautiful, crystal clear water. It's just went with a group of friends, and, good food, great weather, just a really relaxing time.
Well, beautiful, beautiful.
Just in the spirit of, saying something different that Taylor hadn't already said.
Yeah, that's very different.
So Steve Jobs says you can always connect the dots, or you might be able to connect the dots looking backwards in your career. And I was trying to see, you studied journalism, you did some work in fashion and marketing, and then went kind of investor in finance. and music, and now Spiritune is in a way, I guess I see it as blending all of that into one rainbow. But I'm wondering, how do you see
a rainbow is a nice way to say it.
Career?
There you go.
My rainbow of life experiences. I love it. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I guess I'm biased of non-linear career paths. I do believe that the culmination of our life experiences are actually not random, and they put us at exactly the place and time where we're meant to be. So, when I think about all of my life experiences, even, on paper may seem very different and random, and nonlinear. What I think about what each of those experiences has offered me, to get to this point in time, particularly the through line between kind of fashion marketing, investor relations and business development and finance, through, music being kind of my DJ work, building music for certain experiences that's led to Spiritune, is really connected through journalism. I got my degree in journalism, real journalism, not fake journalism, fake news. So
can you get a degree? Can you get a degree in fake journalism?
Yeah, is there a fake journalism degree?
I just wanted to call that out because I feel like, since how many years has it been since I graduated? Almost, let's say 15 years. The world of journalism has definitely evolved what we know it to be today. But anyway, journalism allows for, I think, this critical thinking. It's really taking an unbiased look at facts, at research, and painting a story based on a lot of data you have, a balanced story, an unbiased story. That's the goal, right? To present a picture that's easily understandable for the readers, for the viewers, et cetera. And I emphasized in strategic communications, so really having a strategy around the story I'm telling. And so that's allowed me to move through different industries, starting out with my internship in fashion marketing to investor relations that spanned 10 years in finance, where I got to learn a lot about the world of investing, which certainly plays a role in, or not just investing, but, the mindset around building companies and investing in companies that have certain, financial architectures, et cetera. And then that led, the stress and anxiety of the finance world is what kind of led to the starting of Spiritune, which is a music-based mental health intervention. So to bridge the gap between finance and Spiritune, I learned how to DJ as a fun kind of playground to have a musical expression for people and see people's kind of reaction in real time in kind of a fun, playful setting. So that's a long-winded answer to my rainbow of experiences that has led to, when I think about Spiritune, I think some of my strongest attributes as an early stage founder is really around, data sets, like, where you can, the product you're putting into the world, what's the data telling you? How big is the problem? What do people want in terms of the market sizing? When you're building the product, the financial underpinnings of it all. And then once you have customers, what's that data telling you? What's their utilization, activation rate? There's all kinds of data that go into the product, that go into the marketing plan, that go into the financial plan, that all have to roll up together to really make your business run. And so I feel like,
How'd you come up with the name? And most importantly, how did you get Spiritune.com?
Great questions. So Spiritune, the name, I really, really, really wanted the name to reflect exactly, what we do, which some brands I think do represent, what they do well. Some you may have no idea, right? But I really wanted to strive for that. And it was a lot of brainstorming, a lot of like word clouds or whatever you call them. And eventually I landed on Spiritune, as a combination of music, technology, and kind of, I guess, futurism, I suppose you will, and health. So when you think of spirit, that's kind of a nice picture of our mental health, our like mind and body, how we describe somebody, their spirit, if they're, in high spirits or poor spirits, right? And tune is obviously a play on music as well as like a tune to kind of tweak something, right? Whether you're getting a tune up for your spirit. So yeah, I thought, it worked and I went with it. And then I tried to see if the domain name was available. Sadly, it was not. So I did have to pay for the domain name, though. Thankfully, it was not so popular that I had to pay too much. I think it was maybe $3,000, which is,
it's a good deal.
I've heard of like people buying domain names for like $100,000 or more.
More. Yeah.
So thankfully, though it wasn't available, it wasn't a huge line item on the list of expenses.
So the idea is that it kind of creates music based on your mood, which and then improves your mood. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I think at a high level, yes, it's based on emotion and cognitive state. So rather than, sometimes I don't like to use the words mood music because that I think sometimes feels like maybe softer science, let's say. But, we have an extreme rigor around substantiated evidence around music's effects on emotional and cognitive states, which are core dimensions of mental health. So when we think of using music as medicine, particularly music as medicine for the mind, the core dimensions of mental health are cognitive function, emotional state, and social functioning. And so those are all things that music can affect. And there's clear evidence over the last few decades in neuroscience and clinical settings like music therapy that can substantiate different musical features and different musical attributes to target for specific mental health conditions. And so that is what Spiritune does.
It's really interesting that we had, by the way, the founder of Brain.fm on the pod, and it seems like the Brain FM focuses more on like, focus. It's all like optimization of like your brain. And the way you talk about Spiritune is more like mental health and like emotional support and regulating your emotions and like health and clinical. It just seems very, I'm almost wondering if it's like a different audience. Like, is the focus one more like these more people driven towards efficiency, and yours is focused more on people focused more on like mental health and wellness?
Well, I can't speak to their audience, but I can say that it's both for us. I do think that there's a clear focus on emotional regulation relating to mental health, which very clearly makes us focus in the healthcare space. If we think about music as medicine, where is medicine administered traditionally through doctors and clinical settings, right? So that's where we want to play. And that, the whole like crux around our mission is that the two frontline modalities for mental health, which are drug therapy and talk therapy, haven't been serving us well in terms of improving mental health outcomes, particularly over the last decade, as mental health outcomes continue to deteriorate. Yet music has been shown to have as much effect or more substantial effect as the two frontline modalities. And so we want to...
Really?
Yeah.
Really? On what diagnosis?
There's lots of literature.
Like, yeah.
I can share, post this, discussion, like a bunch of meta-analyses that roll up music's effects on different aspects of mental health compared to drug therapy or talk therapy. Not to mention addressing a lot of the friction points of mental health, or drug therapy and talk therapy, which are affordability, accessibility, side effects in the case of drug therapy. So there's a lot of friction points, barring, effectiveness. There's a lot of things that, are problematic.
Wait, can you share one example? I'm just curious, like how long do people have to listen? Yeah, can you share one example of how music therapy helped?
Yeah, I can specifically speak to Spiritune. We've done a large-scale study with an independent research lab out of NYU. The research has already been conducted and, written up into a manuscript, and it's currently under review to be published by a peer-reviewed journal. So it hasn't been published yet, but I can, speak to some of the effects. So under 10 minutes of time, Spiritune was 10 times more effective at reducing negative emotional states. And this is compared to other audio, other, let's say, popular audio that people might listen to, such as functional playlists on Spotify, like, Deep Focus, et cetera, to popular hits, to just ambient background noise as the control condition. In terms of music's effects on compared to drug therapy or talk therapy, you can compare it across different conditions like depression, anxiety, et cetera. And all I can speak to is kind of the meta-analyses. But anyway, there's a lot of information. I don't want to derail from the focus of the conversation.
No, this is good. Wait, so you're saying for depression, music therapy is potentially as effective or even more effective than drug and talk therapy?
It can be, yes. I can't say, there's a lot of variables case by case, but yes, it can be. Essentially, music is addressing the same brain networks that are involved in, that, certain drugs target as well, and can help rewire the brain, help us feel better, help break, negative thought patterns, et cetera. So it's highly effective. It's very fast acting. And yeah.
Does it matter? Flavio, I'm going to pick on you. So Flavio didn't grow up outside. He grew up outside the States, right? So does the same music work on, let's say, the three of us, or does it have to be personalized to the person based on their background or what they like or things like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, there's not 100% clear answer, today, and maybe there never will, because we as humans always have preferences, right? We have preferences in what we wear, what we eat, the people we hang out with. But there is clear evidence and literature on more universal aspects of musical features, such as things like, rhythm or specific kind of harmony and melodies, rooted in biomusicology, meaning how music affects our body, rather than, let's say, how we respond based on our preferential bias or pop culture, et cetera. So there's pretty clear literature on specific, tonalities, and different musical features that can affect us universally, regardless of our age, gender, culture, socioeconomic status, et cetera. So there is a universal component to music. But it's unclear how much preferences can help boost the potential to, certainly engagement. It can help with engagement of music listening, but in terms of efficacy, Spiritune adheres to what the more universal aspects of music listening, or music's effects on different aspects of our mood and cognition are. And 93% of our users say they've reached their desired emotional state at every 10 minutes of listening. So this is a real-time survey that we get, every time people listen. So far so good, but we can always personalize further. And that's something we're also excited about.
So Gladwell wrote a book called Blink, it's probably 15 years ago now. And it was one of the first books it's not a business book, but it was one of the first books I read that was when I had my first company and I was thinking about the mind, or it was the first time I really thought about these things. And there's a like a paragraph in the book that talks about audio, and I'm going to butcher this for sure, but it said that there was a person who is in, let's say, they're in hospice or the equivalent. They're at the end of their life, and they haven't talked in years, and a game came on, his local sports game. So let's just pretend it was a basketball game of the team that he grew up with. And he was hearing the game live. And he screamed when they scored a point to win the game. And he had not spoken at all in years. So in the book, Gladwell kind of draws this connection to audio's connection into the brain, how it has this very special kind of place in the brain and emotions, and how just hearing something, music, to your point, or any of these kind of specific things can have a tremendous emotional impact on us. So much so that it can like make you scream when you haven't made any sounds in 2 or 3 or 4 years. And that always stuck with me. I was probably read that 15 years ago, or 10 years ago at least. And when you're speaking, it kind of reminds me of that it may have an impact on things that we're not even thinking about, or we're not even conscious of.
That's absolutely true. I mean, when you think about it, I think music often feels underrated by people, or underappreciated because it's invisible, right? It's like not something we can touch or see immediately in front of us. But especially living in a city like New York City, there's constantly sounds around us, whether we're noticing them or not. And they can have a negative effect, and they can have a positive effect. But essentially, our ears are always open and our brain is always listening. And whether we notice sounds subconsciously or consciously, it's absolutely having an effect. We obviously focus on the more positive side of things, but that's why I feel like sound is such an underrepresented or underappreciated, sense, because we often don't think about it. It's not at the forefront of our mind, but yet it's having a tremendous effect on our emotional state.
So that's amazing. As you chose to build this company, I saw you got a grant, and I'm wondering how you chose between raising money from investors, if you've done that, or grants, and what did you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, when you set out, your financing plan, it really comes down to the capital requirements of the business. We're largely a software-based company, so there were some tech requirements, but other than that, the business can be built and scaled pretty capital efficiently. So we didn't set out to raise, a pie in the sky number, for the sake of doing that. It was, I'm a big fan of building leanly, because there's, I think, something, there's a benefit to, I think, resource constraint to help you force a laser sharp thinking around the product. What's the minimum thing you need to do to make this product work, to learn more, and then repeat the process, right? Get kind of early data and feedback from your customers, and then iterate again and again and again and again. So we bootstrapped a bit to kind of start the minimum viable product of Spiritune. Then we did raise capital through angels, friends, and family to commercialize the product and release our V1 product into the market. It happened to be during COVID when we launched, really literally right when COVID hit. We did plan to raise our first sort of venture round, but COVID sort of presented a pretty bad timing for that. So, we sort of hunkered down and tried to extend our runway with, a very modest amount of capital we had. Then we did essentially raise, from Human Ventures during their health and wellness kind of incubator program they had. And because we happened to be serving a large amount of military and military families through a partnership we had, that we had established early on when we released the product, we found that we were able to be eligible for a government grant. So obviously grant funding is a more non-dilutive path to, raising capital. And it's a little bit of a forcing function of yes, we do have external capital, but also a function of what is the product need to, at this point in time to reach the market we're addressing, to scale. And then, we are raising actually right now. But yeah, we don't need a lot of capital to scale capital efficiently. So I'd say, for other founders, in the spirit of, what can they learn from this? I think it's a matter of, what does your business need? And, I'm also a female founder, which presents a lot of different variables in terms of kind of scarcity mindset or, just what the data says about female founders and funding. But yeah, there's a lot of variables that go into fundraising. I think it's, what the business needs plus what, you personally as a founder want to accept in dilutive funding, how much, how much of the business you're willing to give away and release control to others. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Wait, what do you mean by scarcity mindset? Like your mindset, or you mean the investor's mindset?
Oh, I think, I think, women in particularly kind of think about like, how can we modestly build things, right? Whereas I think a lot of times, not to make this gendered at all, but, men can definitely think about it a little more like, what's the maximum amount we should raise from like, and by definition and from the data, they do end up raising more than women. And that's not necessarily, I think it's all changing right now. There's a lot of more female focused funds, a lot of more female founders. So there's a lot of factors that go into that as well, but just pointing it out because I don't think it's an insignificant, data point.
How do you guys get your customers? A lot of reasons people fundraise is to buy ads and invest in customer acquisition. So I'm wondering, how do people find out about you right now, or what's kind of your approach to channel? I saw you got a partnership with Galileo, so I don't know if that's part of the answer in terms of like going the clinical way. But yeah, I'm curious, how do you differentiate yourself, especially without as much capital, in order to get customers?
Yeah, so we have a B2B approach. We have a direct sales process to enterprises as an employee mental health benefit, and B2B through partnerships. And partnerships can be anything from a clinical partnership, such as Galileo, where Spiritune is offered to patients as part of their behavioral health program, or a subclinical partnership where, we partner with an organization that has any type of membership or population that focuses on their mental health in some way, such as Crunch Fitness, for example. We have a partnership to offer Spiritune to 2 million of their members nationwide.
Wait, I'm a Crunch member. How do I get Spiritune through Crunch? Wait, so if you're a Crunch member at the gym, you're saying...
Yeah, you can go to member perks and it should be there.
What? How did I not know this?
Clearly, we need to beef up the marketing on that partnership. But
well, I don't use their app, and they should put posters inside the gym. They have like
I think they're working on that. I'll have to circle back. There's kind of a staged. It's a more recent thing, so it's a staged approach because I think a lot of the gyms are being reconfigured. So they're actually going to have a physical presentation of Spiritune in their relax and recover rooms. And I think they're waiting for some of that to roll out before they.
How did you get that partnership, or because these are hard partnerships to get, and especially as a startup, but as anyone, it's very difficult to get these big kind of sexy partnerships. How are you able to do that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of, networking, my background's in business development and marketing, and speaking of lean, scrappy, kind of like when you think about CAC LTV, like, I think it's really hard in D2C world to get the CAC LTV to line up appropriately. So when I think of ROI of marketing, I spend a lot of my time on business development. And I think early stage founders, it's almost an essential to be the kind of primary salesperson. So I've been fortunate.
I just signed up through Crunch, by the
Awesome.
way.
Yes.
One new customer.
Already an ROI on this podcast alone. Amazing. Taylor, you're next. We'll have to figure out what partner you're affiliated with that we can get you signed up. But yeah, it's a lot of leveraging my networks, which I'm not saying I'm have like an insane network, but it's just spending a lot of time and tapping into different networks, different conferences. How'd
you get your first one? Because the first one's the hardest, I feel like. When you didn't have any traction, how did you do that?
I think when we spent a reasonable amount of time beta testing, and they often say like, go to the people that are closest to you, even if it's not, clearly they're there, and just ask like, this is how we're thinking about going to market. Do you have any folks like in your network, right? And to the people that are closest to you that will go above and beyond to reach out to their networks, right? So through our beta testing, we were able to establish a few folks on the B2B side, the enterprise side, like WeWork, a design firm, some health tech firms that were willing to kind of do some initial pilots with us. And we got great feedback, great results. And then obviously those people then, opened up their network, and it all is this network effect, right? And it doesn't always, that sounds very simple and easy, but that's not easy, right? You really have to do a lot of work to get, build the trust of people that you're doing pilots with. It's not even easy to get a pilot. But yeah, I mean, it's a direct sales approach. We don't do ads. So it's either word of mouth and, direct sales approach, which, we have different consultants that work with us on the BD side as well. But yeah, I'm mostly quarterbacking, sales and marketing.
Very cool. And as you grew, my experience is that the early ones, it's like you said, it's like your network, personal relationships. It's almost like begging. You're like, please, will you take this meeting with me? My uncle. So those types of things. But my experience too is that kind of changes over time, right? The early ones, you're almost begging, and then later on, they're coming to you, or they hear about you through the grapevine. Have you experienced that? And has your pitch changed over time? What have you noticed about how that's changed?
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing for me was going from pitching an idea and a concept to pitching something that I knew worked for people. We had outcomes data, we had engagement data. So that really shifted, the way I pitched and the confidence with which I pitched, like I very much found it difficult when I'm pitching this idea that sounded so great. But people really would have to stick their neck out to be like, okay, we'll do this, trusting you, versus, okay, now we've seen you do this. It's helped, our population with a variety of different mental health needs. It has amazing engagement. So people are really excited. And now we have a lot of inbound. Actually, I was just talking with my colleague yesterday how I don't know if it's the magnetic field energy or it's like we're reaching this milestone where we've gotten a lot of inbound. And, we've been in the world a couple of years now. So I think we are at a point where we should ideally, if we're doing a good job, have inbound. And so, it's definitely pitching more on what we've done versus what we can do. And that hits differently.
Definitely feels, the pitch is different. Everything's different when they come to you, right?
For sure. But it just feels good. It's like a huge validation when it's like, we got this referral from someone, that's been working with you, and it's been a tremendous, asset for them. Like that really gives you a big boost when it's like, okay, we're doing good. We're doing good things here. And
all right.
The founder, I guess, lingo, product market speaks to, product market fit.
No, congrats. And look, as we wrap here, we always wrap with the question, what's a life hack that made a big impact on you recently? Taylor, do you wanna start?
Yes. So, all right, I have one. I do a weekly meeting that's like a relationship meeting, basically. So every Sunday at 2 p.m., my now wife and I do a meeting. It's like I do it with I have two partners in my business. I meet with them. We have cadences where we meet twice a week and kind of go through the business, sales and marketing and all these other things. And I do the same thing with my wife. Not the same topics, but it's like we have it's a structured agenda. And we started this because I heard somebody who said it changed his life. And I was at drinks with him. And I was like, that's a cool idea. We'll try it. I'll try it once. Right. And we did it and really, really liked it. And we've done it every week since. We've changed some of the questions and what goes into it. But it's had a tremendous impact on, like bubbling things up that are good or bad. But just to kind of give you an idea, we ask each other questions like, what's your big win of the week? So it can be working, personal fitness, any of those things. What's one thing you appreciate about your partner this week? That's a powerful one. As your partner, how did I score last week on a scale of 1 to 10? That one's tough. And then I added some other ones too. Like, what did we each learn this week? So it doesn't have to be it could be about, hey, I learned how to, sell in this different way, or it can be anything I learned. I learned how to ride a bike. And then very kind of structural things like, what are we each doing this week? Because I found that, I didn't know. It's like, oh, she's going to dinner on Wednesday. Okay, that's helpful. I can do something else. So this has been tremendous. And then there's also a whole goal setting as part of it that we do once a quarter. But the weekly meetings, highly recommend. Big hack. I've been doing it 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. And it's great. Right,
does it have like an improvement section? It's like, what can I be doing better kind of thing too?
Yes. Well, that ends up becoming part of it. It's yes, because the how did I score last week on a scale of 1 to 10 has a why. So it's like, okay, it was an 8. Okay, why? And so that creates yes, some improvement side for sure. And then also we add new things to this. So every week, yeah. There's an improvement, but it's also just kind of connecting around the same topics. So it's the same thing in my business. Connecting around the same topics. How many sales meetings did we have last week? Just answering that question every single week improves the number. Just by I just had a call about this right before this podcast. It's just by measuring it improves it. So simply measuring it on a consistent basis improves the number. That's my experience. The things that we measure go up or down, whichever way we're trying to push them. Flavio, what about you?
So last week I was in Austin, and I think one big life hack is a way of like meeting people and also getting to know the city is to throw a happy hour. So through a happy hour, and by through a happy hour, it basically just means, I picked a random place and then just started inviting people, strangers to it. We're in EO. So
just like off the street?
Well, like in advance, like a few weeks in advance, I went through a list of all the EO members in Austin and then all my LinkedIn connections in Austin. That took some time, but then I just picked oh, I'd love to meet this person. And so I was like, hey, I'm Flavio, I'm in Austin, I'm throwing a happy hour with other entrepreneurs and I want to invite you. And that was surprisingly effective. I would have thought if people did it in New York, I most likely would not show up. But for some reason, this worked extremely well. And I got to meet all these amazing people. And it was amazing. So I think it's a great life hack to do. I'm going to do it every time I go to a new city now.
I agree completely with both of you. Both of you listed life hacks that I've actually experienced recently. So now I can't use those as my life hacks for this conversation anyway. But I agree 100%. In the last few weeks, I've done both of the things that you mentioned, and they had,
Wait, you threw a happy hour?
No, we've been doing, some events in and around New York City. And you always think time and resources against who's actually going to show up. But what we found is that like it fosters a lot of goodwill to simply put an invitation out there, regardless of who can actually make it. And, from a business development perspective, it's actually been really incredible to see like who kind of came out of the woodworks to be like, this is really awesome, I can make it, or this is really awesome, I can't make it, but we should catch up. So it's just like a nice thing to like put out into the world to offer something. It doesn't even have to be much. To your point, Flavio, it's like just pick a time and a place and tell people to meet there. But ours was a little more intentional than that, but still it was, it's all about, showing someone you're thinking of them, the spirit around gathering and community that offers some sort of goodwill that allows for a touch point for people to kind of, get back in touch. So I've definitely experienced that. And then Taylor, I have a similar check-in with my team that's about both personal and professional check-in. And it really, I think, opens up vulnerability, builds trust with each other. And, personal and professional aren't always mutually exclusive. In fact, they often are not and are inextricably linked. So building that rapport on both a personal and professional level, I think is so powerful. But since you both already said that, I'll just add one more thing. It's similar to Taylor, to yours, but it's a gratitude circle that we do with our weekly team gathering. And we all have to go around. We start the meeting by saying one thing that we've been grateful for this week. Can be personal, professional. And it's really wonderful to hear like what's going on in people's lives, what they choose to be grateful for. Something that's as simple as like the sun is shining today, and some is, a little more complex, and really gets our team to open up, and we get to learn a little bit more about what's going on in their life. And again, build the trust sort of, because we know a lot more about what's going on, especially in a distributed remote work setting. It's so important. And that served us really well over the pandemic, because a lot of folks were going through mental health struggles that you wouldn't know otherwise, so that really, really helped.
That's awesome. Well, Jamie, we recommend people go to Crunch and sign up for Spiritune, Spiritune.com.
Get your medical from really Galileo, then you'll also get Spiritune. Lots of places.
Sign up twice for sure.
Lots of places to find Spiritune, just not in ads, which I guess you can thank me for.
I'll look for ads. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. Great chatting with you.
Thank you both for having me on. It was fun, and hope the audience has an enjoyable listen.
Thank you for rocking with the homies. Taylor, Trusty, and Flavio. Seize the day, own it. Until next time, hold it down, hold it down. Hey.